Superlatives are the order of the day when anyone describes soprano Christine Brewer. This performance of Mozart's Requiem with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra and Chorus drew hundreds of devoted Christine Brewer fans. Her power, grace, and brilliant command of her instrument make Brewer the bi-state area's most famous export to the worlds of classical music and opera.
You love listening to her, and you feel bathed in the wonder and the love that she has for what it is she's doing.
Singing all over Europe. They love her in Britain. And she's an international star.
A star that remains firmly rooted in the state where she grew up.
I come from a town, the kind of town where you live in a house till the house falls down.
Christine Brewer was born Linda Christine Burchett on October 26, 1955. She was raised in the Mississippi River town of Grand Tower, Illinois, 100 miles south of St. Louis. Population, 800.
Mark Twain actually mentioned Grand Tower in his book, Life on the Mississippi. And at a time, it was a bigger, more flourishing town, 100 years ago. But it is pretty small.
Brewer's musical talent was inherited from her mother, D. Craig Brewer. Dee and her sisters Thelma and Linda Sue grew up singing gospel music.
My mother had the most beautiful voice. And, people say, oh, well, of course you'd say that about your mother. But I have other friends who heard her. My voice teacher heard her sing. And she really did have an outstanding voice. She chose not to go into opera, although I think there were people in her little town who would have sent her on if she wanted. But she got married when she was 17. And she had me when she was 19. And she had a family, but she always sang. She sang in our church. She sang with a women's trio. They did jazz, gospel music. And then when my brothers and I got older, we got to sing with her too. Well, even when we were little kids, my brothers and I used to put on little musicals. We would sort of make up stuff. I think actually I would sort of make them do it. And I know we've got a picture somewhere where we're all singing, and my little brother, you can't even see his little head. He's holding up a magazine like it's a music book. But we were always doing something with music. And I still remember the funerals and things, the wakes in our family. You would sit around and people would get out a guitar, somebody get out a harmonica. Before you knew it, we were singing, and it would maybe go on into the night. That's the kind of stuff that I just remember from my family, and I thought everybody's family did that.
When the time came for formal music lessons, it wasn't voice, but the violin that Brewer studied. Her father, Don, didn't share the rest of his family's musical gifts, but he made sure Christine got the training she wanted.
All those early mornings when he would drive me to a violin lesson or an orchestra rehearsal before he went to work, there was never a question about it. They knew I loved music and I loved playing the violin, and they made it happen. Mom and Dad were both very, very supportive. And so there were lots of music lessons, contests, driving all over the state for a violin contest, and then when I started doing singing a little bit later, going to the musicals, whatever, always the support.
When she got to Shawnee High School in Wolf Lake, Brewer started auditioning for the school musicals and initially suffered some disappointments.
My freshman year, they were doing My Fair Lady. I was just sure I was going to get the lead. I memorized a couple of the solos, did the audition, and I thought, well, surely I'm going to get the lead. And the chorus teacher asked me to play as the concertmaster in the orchestra, and I was devastated because I wanted to be Liza Doolittle. I didn't want to be playing the violin down in the pit. But she said, no, you're a freshman, and she gave the part to a junior or senior girl. And she said, but you're going to be the concertmaster of the orchestra. That's a big deal. So, I said, oh, all right. And the next year, I auditioned for Music Man. So I thought for sure I'd be Marion. Well, that year I was in the chorus. But she was good about letting you progress. So my junior year, I finally played the lead in South Pacific. I played Nellie Forbush. And in my senior year, I played in Sound of Music.
Brewer went on to major in education at McKendree College in Lebanon, Illinois. She also sang in the college choir and did some solo work. Her plan was to become a music teacher, and for a while she was. But before graduation, Brewer took what would turn out to be the first step toward a full-time career as a performer. She found out a chorus was being formed for the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra and auditioned for it.
So I went in and sang, and Tom Peck was the chorus master then, and he asked me to sing in the chorus, and I was one of the paid section leaders. We were supposed to have the music learned before rehearsals began and be the section leader. And then I had a couple girlfriends in the symphony chorus who were singing at the Opera Theater, or who had told me they were going to audition for the Opera Theater chorus. And it was in the summer, so we weren't teaching, so it was a good time to go. And I auditioned. I'd never been in an opera. And it was so much fun to wear costumes, to wear makeup, to be a different character, and to get paid to do it.
Brewer's first opera theater appearance was in the chorus of The Beggar's Opera in 1982. Her first major role with the company was 8 years later when she sang the part of Ellen Orford in Peter Grimes. The first time Opera Theater's general director, Charles Mackay, heard Christine sing was during a fundraiser for the company in 1984.
I didn't know anyone. I was brand new to town and didn't know the singer. And she stepped up to the piano and started to sing, and I just thought, my goodness, that is an amazing voice, a voice of incredible beauty and potential.
Brewer credits her husband Ross, whom she met at McKendree College, for pushing her to pursue performing full-time. Christine had left it to Ross to renew her teaching credentials, but he didn't on purpose and told her he did not want her to use them as a crutch. Having no alternative, Christine stepped up her schedule of auditions across the country. For several years, she took part in the prestigious and highly competitive National Council auditions sponsored by the Metropolitan Opera in New York. And for several years, she was eliminated in or before the final round.
And I'd come home from these and I'd say to Ross, that's it. I am not doing another Met audition. I'm tired of competing against other singers. It's difficult, too, because you're not just competing against sopranos. You're competing against baritones, tenors, altos, you know. And it really is like comparing apples and oranges. Who's to say a tenor is better than the soprano? It was a necessary evil, you know, but it was tough. Good things came out of it.
One very good thing that came out of it, thanks to circumstance and Brewer's unwavering determination, was a private voice lesson with the late legendary dramatic soprano Birgit Nilsson.
I sang for her. We had an hour lesson, and she invited me to come to Germany and work with her, which I did. And I took my mom with me, and we spent about 6 weeks there. She had a great sense of humor and a great sense of honesty, and that's what I loved about her so much. She was really, really a wonderful mentor.
Finally, in 1989, Brewer's last year of eligibility for the Metropolitan Opera auditions, she was named one of the 10 winners out of an initial field of 2,000 singers. During this time in her career, Opera Theater of St. Louis gave Brewer financial as well as emotional support, including paying for her to travel to Germany to study with Birgit Nilsson. So it's no surprise that Charles Mackay was in New York to congratulate her on her triumph.
It was such a tremendous joy for me to witness Christine's victory on stage at the Metropolitan Opera and to realize that I'd heard her sing right in my living room, and I'd gotten to know her, and I discovered what a wonderful person she was. I also knew how hard Christine had worked. It takes an incredible amount of dedication and hard work and study and long solitary hours for a singer to really perfect the craft.
Christine Brewer's career was now poised to take off. Then she made a decision some professionals in the music world might consider a career killer. A number of offers that came Brewer's way, she turned down. The reason was her daughter, Elizabeth.
My daughter was in grade school, And to say, yes, I'm going to come to New York for 2 or 3 months to understudy something or to sing a small part just wasn't worth it for me. It wasn't worth being away from Elizabeth that long. So I turned things down, and I think at some point there was some animosity from the Met because they felt that I was being too grand, or I was saying, well, I'm too good to sing First Lady and Magic Flute. And I wasn't saying that. I was just saying, at this stage of my life, because I have a family, I'm not going to do it. Not that I think I'm too great to sing it.
One of the things that impresses me most about her is that she's patient. She hasn't sped into this. She took the time to raise her daughter and get her through high school before she would do opera gigs in the winter, because opera takes you away from your family for a couple of months at a time. She did summer things until where the whole family could go, and then when she graduated from high school, Christine accepted those things that would take her away.
Brewer made her Metropolitan Opera debut in 2003 in the title role of Richard Strauss's Ariadne of Naxos. It's a role she sang in an Opera Theater of St. Louis production 12 years earlier. This photo is from yet another Ariadne performance in Paris in 2002. Other operas on Brewer's resume include Egyptian Helena, another work by Strauss, Franz Joseph Haydn's Armida, and Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, in which she made her Covent Garden Royal Opera debut in London in 1994. Brewer's most recent appearance with Opera Theater of St. Louis was in 2005. She portrayed Queen Elizabeth I in Benjamin Britten's Gloriana. In her review of Gloriana, St. Louis Post-Dispatch classical music critic Sarah Bryan Miller likened Brewer's voice to molten gold.
It's a gorgeous instrument. It really is, and it's well produced. There's nothing phony about it. There's no alloy in that gold.
I think it was a revelation to a lot of people when they attended the performance that Christine is a wonderful actress, that she captured the tragedy of Elizabeth in such a powerful way, not just through her voice, but through her sheer presence on stage and her interaction with the other characters in the opera.
Brewer's concert and recital performances are praised as equally stunning. St. Louis Symphony Orchestra music director David Robertson gives as much credit to Brewer's intellect as to her voice.
The types of things that she brings are all about making the music work. So she understands the style of each composer very profoundly. She won't sing a phrase that's Mozart in a way that doesn't fit within the Mozart realm, and yet she can switch over to something that's much more recent, whether it's a sort of cabaret type song or whether it's a modern piece, and incarnate the type of language that is required to make that sound right.
A performance by Brewer in January 2006 exemplifies her level of professionalism and the esteem in which she's held. Now here's the backstory. The Boston Symphony Orchestra was scheduled to perform Beethoven's Missa Solemnis and needed a last-minute replacement for an ailing soprano. BSO music director James Levine wanted Brewer. Meanwhile, here in St. Louis, Brewer had just finished having lunch with friends and was about to head home to Lebanon, Illinois, when she discovered her agent had been trying to reach her on her cell phone, so she called back. Now bear in mind, the conversation was taking place just 5 hours before the start of the performance, 1,200 miles away in Boston.
I said, well, I don't know if I could be there by tonight. I could do tomorrow and Saturday, but I don't think I could do tonight. She said, well, no, they really want you for all 3 performances. So I said, well, I'm on my way home now. I would have to go get the score and a concert gown. I don't really think I could be back at Lambert and go through security, park my car, do all of that stuff, and get on a flight in time. So I just don't think it's possible. But I said, you know, we do have a little airport just a few minutes south of Lebanon. And I got a phone call. They said, Boston Symphony has chartered a jet. The jet will be at the airport at 3:15. I said, well, okay.
Then the symphony changed its website to reflect the substitution and emphasized that Brewer would not have time to rehearse with the orchestra or the other singers in the quartet. Instead, Brewer rehearsed by herself in flight and arrived at the concert hall with just 15 minutes to spare. The performance went off without a hitch. The review the next day called it remarkable.
I don't really remember the performance because I think I was on sort of another zone. But it went really well. And the next two nights even went better because I knew what his tempos were going to be and the other soloists, you know, how to blend with them, and it all went fine.
2006 has been an especially good year for Accolades. In February, a recording on which Brewer performed, William Bolcom's Songs of Innocence and of Experience, won 3 Grammy Awards for Best Classical Contemporary Composition, Best Choral Performance, and Best Classical Album.
I know it sounds cliche to say, oh, it was just an honor to be nominated, but it really was an honor to be nominated for something like this. And it was the first time I'd ever been nominated for a Grammy. And to win it, too, it was just, it was really great.
Brewer was also one of the recipients of the 2006 St. Louis Arts Awards, sponsored by the Arts and Education Council. The honoree showed her appreciation in song.
Sometimes I get a little embarrassed because I do this because I love to do it, and so these sorts of awards are wonderful, but they're also sort of embarrassing for me to know what to say, you know. But I was very honored by that.
This song from a comic opera by Victor Herbert is entitled Art is Calling for Me. It's a favorite of Brewer's and one she often performs as an encore. It's about an aspiring diva who wants it all and wants it now. Brewer's colleagues and fans appreciate the song's irony, since she's considered the antithesis of the stereotypical prima donna.
She's so approachable and so engaging with everyone she meets, and she has that ability of having direct communication with each person, that you are the only one in the room or in the tent or in her line of vision when she is speaking to you. You never feel that she's, oh hum, I'm just kind of phoning it in and doing this because I have to.
If you ask my husband or daughter, they may say, yeah, she's a diva at home, but maybe I get it out of my system here and then I'm able to work in the workplace in a better way. but I do, as a rule, I just think a lot of that is just a little too much.
Lebanon, Illinois has been home to Christine Brewer since 1980. In March of 2006, she showed me a few vintage landmarks on West St. Louis Street.
Across the street is the Looking Glass Playhouse. This little place here, Dr. Jazz, was the soda fountain back in the, I guess, 30s and 40s, and it had been closed for a long time. And it's been reopened, and it's the same soda fountain. They still keep the prices low enough that the kids can come by at from high school, stop in and get a soda after school. And we like to come up here and have hamburger and fries every once in a while.
The Lebanon area is more than a place for its most famous resident to hang her hat between engagements.
This is good. I sometimes want to do this instead of lunch. So
Brewer maintains close ties with neighbors and friends and performs for community groups. She also has an ongoing relationship with an elementary school in nearby Marissa, where she taught for 1 year after college.
So if I went to a restaurant and I ordered a hamburger in England and they said it's 10 pounds, how much would that really cost in dollars?
$17.50.
Thank you, math genius. $17.50.
On this visit, Brewer explained to Marissa Elementary 6th graders how to convert dollars into foreign currencies. She even brought coins and bills from overseas for show and tell.
And it's a little bigger.
Yeah.
Since 2005, Brewer has kept in touch with these students while she's on the road performing. She sends them pictures of her travels around the world, and they exchange emails. Their teacher and Brewer's friend, Nancy Wagner, came up with the idea.
I was trying to figure out what would be the best way to bring the world to my students. And one day I opened my email, and I had a wonderful email from my friend Christine, and she was talking about some of her adventures on one of her trips. And I thought, oh, that's it. She's my ambassador. She can be the person.
Along the field as we came by, a year ago, my love and I, we spin over stile and stone.
And they just asked her all kinds of questions about the world, about life, what it was like for her growing up, because Christine also grew up in a very small community, and she never dreamed that something like that could ever happen to her. So she tells the kids to reach for their dreams.
I had no idea how involved I would really get with this and how much it would mean to me. And whenever I come home from a day in Marissa, my husband can always tell. He said, you've been in Marissa today, because I'm just up, and it's so invigorating. And I think because the kids show me this kind of love and respect, and they always make me feel so special, I come home in a really great mood.
We are talking now of summer evenings in Knoxville, Tennessee, in the time that I lived there so successfully disguised to myself as a child.
Brewer is reading from a section of the James Agee novel, A Death in the Family. It's the basis of composer Samuel Barber's masterpiece entitled Knoxville, Summer of 1915.
I had to ask a very old friend of mine who was in his 90s what this meant.
The object is to show the youngsters that giving music the performance it deserves means doing your homework.
She's an extremely intelligent singer, and God doesn't always issue brains to go with the voices. She has it all. She has the voice, she has the brains, and she has the patience and the ability to work hard.
This rehearsal of Knoxville with the St. Louis Youth Symphony was for a concert marking the end of the orchestra's 35th season. Brewer volunteered to perform as soon as she heard about it.
And this is really something that not a lot of people would do. And it didn't take arm twisting. It didn't, oh, well, who do we have to ask first so that maybe we can be assured that the person won't say no before they've said yes. You don't have to do any of that with Christine. You just, in fact, just talk about an idea and she'll say, this is a great thing to do.
We all got pretty excited that someone of her caliber would be willing to perform with us.
Is that an inspiration to you in any way? Or?
Yeah, it really means a lot to us when someone that famous decides that they want to work with a group like us. And we're all young musicians and we all look up to people like her, so it's really nice.
I was really excited because I know she's like really famous and she's been like around the world, and to play with like somebody local like us, that's pretty exciting.
It's widely believed the repertoire of Richard Wagner will play heavily in Christine Brewer's future. Her performances and recordings of Wagnerian heroines in Tannhauser, Tristan and Isolde, and The Ring have all been met with acclaim. But will she eventually join the ranks of other dramatic sopranos in the Wagner pantheon, luminaries that include her late mentor, Birgit Nilsson?
I don't know. There are a lot of us out here, you know, who are trying to fill her shoes, and I don't know if that'll ever happen. You know what I would say? I feel that sort of responsibility to try to do the best that I can, because she was such a wonderful, wonderful singer. And, oh my gosh, those roles were her roles, Brunhilde and Isolde. And I don't know if the baton's been passed, but I certainly feel a responsibility to do the best that I can do. And sort of feel like she's still looking down, you know, with her critique.
There's only one Nilsson. She was a force of nature. But there's only one Christine. She can be a force of nature herself, as her own person, as her own artist. She's worked with the best. She's taken what they have to offer. Now she's synthesizing it within her own experience and bringing out another artistry to the world.
Christine Brewer has come a long way from her childhood home here in Grand Tower, Illinois. And her story calls to mind the children's tale of the tortoise and the hare. While some classically trained singers have raced ahead full throttle in the quest for stardom, often risking physical and emotional burnout, Brewer has instead moved gradually with greater care. The result is an artist who is not only at the top of her profession, but one who enjoys a rich, fulfilling personal life. It is as much a testament to Brewer's wisdom as it is to her immeasurable talent. Overall, it sounds like from everything you've told me, it's almost as though everything that has happened to you has happened for a reason. Would you agree?
I think so. I think I've always left myself open to opportunities, and I've tried to surround myself with people who I think give me good advice and who have helped me sort of figure out how to do this career and have a family. To balance them both, that's the trick, I think. So I feel like I've been really blessed.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Halen, Alice Nelson, and our award winner, Christine Brewer.